once ago, and today I'm here to film a video for the first time in 3 weeks. And I have no viable excuses. I did start a new job 3 months ago and I really have to let that one go. I think I just got lazy and unmotivated, and that's my fault completely. I also got new editing software and it doesn't mesh well with my laptop, which means that I have to buy another laptop, and the thought of it, the horror, brings me down because I don't want to spend so much money on new equipment. It is going to be pricey and I don't know when it's going to happen. Today I'm going to wrap up the reading month of January and February, very late as usual, but I think at this point it's the part of my brand. I always skip the monthly wrap-ups when I have to do them. This video is going to be longish, so you can just stop now and pour yourself a cup of tea or coffee and have a better experience. And with that warning, we're moving on to the actual content of this video. The book that I disliked the most in January and February is Giggorilla by Ashley Poussin. I gave it 2 stars. It was just not the thing that I wanted to see with this premise. I thought the premise was fun and entertaining, and I was convinced that I'm going to enjoy it at least a little bit, even though I don't enjoy MF young adult romances / contemporaries that much. But for some reason the concept stuck with me. I wanted to see what the author is going to do with it. It is about our protagonist who always watched a very famous sci-fi TV show with her dad, but when he passed away she didn't have anyone to have this experience with, but she was still a big fan of the show because it reminded her of the bond that she had with her father. She lives with her stepmother though, that is not particularly fond of her, and her 2 stepsisters. The reboot in a form of movie is coming up for the show that she likes, and she really wants to celebrate it. She wants it to be the way she wants it to be, but the actor that they cast for the movie, in her opinion, is subpar to the actor that played the character in the TV show. She writes a shitpost about it on her blog and it blows up. It is very much our modern culture. It is very much something that could have happened, so it did sound so good. But in my opinion it falls a little bit flat because, first of all, we know the Cinderella fairy tale and the story follows the structure of the fairy tale very accurately, plus it is not particularly shocking. There's not a lot of plot twists. I did know what's going to happen since the middle point of the book, and it's one of the major reasons why I found the book so boring. The other part, of course, is because I'm not a big fan of the genre also. The next book, and you have to remember that I'm wrapping up books from least favorite to most favorites, is Inside by Santina Hassal. We're not going to get into the whole Santina Hassal catfish scandal because I don't think that I'm going to give you any insights. Haha, the pun. To put it simply, it turned out that Santina Hassal was not a queer man writing romance novels. It was a woman with a pen name, Santina Hassal, which happens because a lot of authors have pen names. The problem is that this author catfished other people and pretended to be a part of a marginalized group, which is not a cute look. But it doesn't take out the fact that she wrote pretty good romances. This one, though, wasn't good. It was entertaining because of the plot, but the romance was dull. The storyline was not inspired, and I think that with this concept she could have done much more. Inside follows a guy in the South with a pretty creepy family. They all have different mental abilities, but he and his twin were always outcast in this family because they didn't want to do anything with them. And one day he's hit with terrible news. His twin died in the New York City and it seems like he killed himself, but the protagonist doesn't believe in it, and he's sent a vision where the circumstances of this death are pretty murky. I was not a fan of the way this story unfolded. I thought it was pretty predictable, and also I think that she didn't give it her all. It could have been much more entertaining. The relationship could have been much more exciting. There was a lot of stereotypical characters and they did fall a little flat. So combine the fact that this book was pretty mediocre and the catfishing drama, and I don't want to continue reading these books at all. The next book that I want to mention is a gay classic. It's Maurice by Ian Forster. Can you believe that I'm holding a real physical box in my hands? And do you remember how I said that I need to read more physical books? Well, it didn't happen. It is known as the first gay story that finished with a happily ever after, and I confirm that it does, but there's a lot of internal shame in it, and the characters that we meet throughout are all unhappy. We start with Maurice when he's a child, and even though he is a privileged child, he's from a rich household and he doesn't have a father, which means that he's basically the man in the house, even when he is pretty young. So he can do a lot of things without consequences. He still feels like he doesn't fit in, and it's up to a certain point, we see it through a lot of scenes, he doesn't understand why he doesn't fit in. And when his teachers or his mother are telling him how the life that he lives is supposed to be, he doesn't understand the appeal of it, and he cannot explain even to himself what it's wrong. So that part I could totally relate to. It felt like certain things from Ian Forster's life manifested in this book, that he experienced something, lived through something, but couldn't explain the motivation of the person he lived it through with. He made up the most ridiculous one and wrote it in the book. I was laughing at a certain point. This book just feels like a private journal that was fictionalized. In those 2 months I've also read an issue of Fans. Loved it. Can't wait for more issues. I really enjoy the story, and I hate the fact that it comes out in issues because I want the bind up. I want to enjoy the story from the start till the end. I don't like waiting. Moving on to books that I really enjoyed. There are 4- and 5-star reads that I've had in January and February. The first one is Carole by Patricia Highsmith. The book is very different from the movie, and I'm sure a lot of you watched the movie. I think the book is so different because it's only from the point of view of Therese, and we don't get the point of view of Carole, so we're a little biased, and we think that Carole is not a good person. I'm bummed that we don't have her point of view because I would have liked to know what is happening and not see her image process through the eyes of Therese, because Therese is pretty biased. She's in love with this woman and she doesn't get what she wants immediately, which makes her very frustrated. So even though it's a picture of full-on adoration, at the same time some pieces of dialogue are interpreted by Therese in a way that will validate her feelings, negative or positive. So of course the book feels different after you watch the movie, and I'm sure it's the same way around when you read the book first and then watch the movie. The second to last and the second to most favorite in this video is going to be We Are Okay by Neil LaCour. It is something I was hesitant to pick up. I don't like books about grief. I don't like to think about death often in general because I have certain phobias that have to do with death. So I don't like allowing my brain to go into this direction. But I really enjoyed this book. It is about a girl whose mother passed away. She lives with her granddad. Then one day he steps out of the house and disappears. She is grieving this second big loss in her life and stops talking to all of her friends, to her girlfriend, and moves back to campus. Her ex-girlfriend comes to visit her after a big period of time, and they're trying to reconnect and be friends again, at least. This was equal times heartbreaking and hopeful. When I finished this book, I was surprised because I expected it to be a quiet novel about grief, and there were quite a few plot twists in it, so who knew? I also really love the way this novel was structured. I think it really helped the flow, and it really helped to engage with the audience and keep them entertained. At least I was entertained and I wanted to know more about this story. So if you're scared that the story is going to be a little too much, that it's going to be too sad and hopeless, I'd say give it a try, because I think that it was brilliantly done, and I appreciate the fact that that type of a story could be told in a little bit more of a lighter way. It ends on such a hopeful note, and I think that what makes the difference. And the last book, and my absolute fave, I'm not sure that I'm going to encounter a book better than this year, because it was well written and also completely up my taste. It was actually everything I wanted to see, and I was so glad that people hyped it up for me. It was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was so good. It was the mix of genres that I really enjoy, plus it was well done. It kept me invested. There were quite a few plot twists, and I just want another book this good. It is a story about Monique, who is a journalist and starts a new job in a magazine she always wanted to work in. Her editor gets an email that a very famous actress that didn't give interviews for a very long time wants to be interviewed by Monique specifically. Monique doesn't know what it's all about, but she feels blessed because it can turn her career into a very fruitful direction. So she agrees, of course, and this famous actress tells her her life story. It is a little bit like the premise of The 13th Tale, which is one of my favorite books, but it also is queer and less creepy, and I am obsessed with it still. I didn't know that a story of someone's past could be so entertaining. I think the part that I enjoyed also is the characters and the complexity of them, and how they're all pretty grey and not one-dimensional. This actress is Cuban. She comes from a very poor background, and she gives it her all. She tries everything. She is willing to put everything at stake. She's willing to use all the things that she got to get into Hollywood. It makes you admire how determined she is. I do hope that at least half of the people that are watching this video are going to pick up this book, because it's so good, and I'm like 80% sure that you're going to enjoy it, because if you're watching me, you probably enjoy the things I read, maybe. That's all the books that I'm going to mention in this video. I hope that life is treating you well, wherever you are, and thank you for being here with me today. I hope to see you soon with another video, but I'm not promising anything. Bye!